word surrender, I think about a complete and total emptying out of the gig's up. I'm done. And I think that's a frightening word sometimes. That surrender is not losing, it's not failing, it is an emptying out.
Surrender feels like more of a posture than an act, and it feels like a practice more than it feels like an event. And I think sometimes the church sees that as an event. It's a posture that one takes in the world, because it's, in the end of the day, the only posture that one can take to receive. We've been taught, I've been conditioned, we've all been conditioned to take things, to grab hold of things, to grab a hold of opportunities. The way that we even language things is this violence. There's an inherent violence in it, and it's a taking. But everything in life that has meant anything to me is, I've just received it, right? I mean, I've received friends that I don't deserve, but have transformed me. My wife, my 3 little boys. I did nothing to deserve that. I just received it. It's the Eucharist. It's the secular sacrament of just receiving what God has. And that's a posture of surrender.
I would describe surrender as the willingness to look at the dark recesses of ourselves. It's a willingness to be conscious of who we are. It's a willingness, just for a little bit, to turn the page on the narcissism that I think I involve myself in on a 24/7 kind of basis. So surrender would be willing to look at life differently, look at myself differently, and perhaps try to look at God.
Part of my process of surrender was coming into relationship with people where I had to bear witness to what I had done in ways that I was investing in that no one would ever know. And so some of that was a surrender of who I wanted you to think I was, in order to maintain some type of credibility in a relationship that wasn't even there in the first place, right? So what I'm surrendering is, I'm just surrendering air. I'm surrendering nothing. So it's smoke and mirrors that I'm surrendering in order to step into relationship with another person that humanizes me. And all the things I had told about myself were these lies that were trapped in hiddenness that could only be penetrated by the other. It had to come out of my throat in the relational space of the other, where the other person, where Sean, not just a random other, but Sean, who knew me, could then take a hold of this weeping mess that I was, and remind me of who I always was, right? That I was a beloved son of God, never had been cut off, but my experiences had told me otherwise. And so I think partly that's what surrender does, is it creates community.
If I look back on the occasions when surrender's been the centerpiece of my spiritual journey and think, holy smokes, I was just getting rid of baggage. I was getting rid of stuff that nobody needs, all that self-reliance stuff that no one can sustain for a lifetime, and just leads to an isolated, diminished existence. So surrender, once you've experienced that a few times and found that on the other side of it you've got more rather than less, I think it feels differently inside. It doesn't feel like you're losing stuff. And I think in the history of the Christian tradition, there's plenty of examples of how surrender's gone bad and it's been used to distribute shame and to hurt people. But there's also plenty of wonderful examples of people who have experienced turning their lives over to God, or whatever language you want to use there, and found that on the other side of that, it's a better place to be. And sometimes you fall into the hands of a loving God, you know. Sinners falling into the hands of a loving, graceful, tender-hearted, slow-to-anger God. And that's a kind of experience that will change one's life forever, I think.